9,000 milliampere phone batteries sound insane, but bigger battery does not always mean better battery life. And that's where most people get it wrong. Phones like OnePlus Nord 6 and iQOO Z11 are expected to push battery size to around 9,000 milliampere, which sounds like a massive upgrade. But here's the part nobody talks about. Modern phones are also using more power than ever, and that cancels out a big part of the extra battery. So even with a bigger battery, you might not get the improvement you're expecting. Here's what most people assume. More milliampere means more battery life, and on paper, that actually makes sense. If a phone has a 4000 milliampere battery and another one has 8000 milliampere, you would expect the second one to last almost twice as long. And a few years ago, that was actually closer to reality because phones were simpler, they had lower refresh rate displays, less powerful processors, and fewer background processes running all the time. But modern smartphones are completely different. Today's phones are doing a lot more, even when you are not actually using them. They are constantly syncing data, running background apps, processing notifications, and even using AI features in the background. So battery life is no longer just about how much power you have. It's about how fast your phone is using that power. Think of it like this. A bigger fuel tank sounds great, but if the engine is burning fuel twice as fast, you won't get much extra distance, and that's exactly what's happening with the modern smartphones. Let's break down where all the battery actually goes. First, the display. This is actually one of the biggest battery consumers on your phone. Modern smartphones now come with 120 Hz, even 165 Hz refresh rates, which makes everything feel incredibly smooth. Scrolling feels faster, animations look better. But there is a trade off. Higher refresh rates mean your screen is updating more times every second, and that uses more power compared to the older 60 Hz displays. Then there is brightness. Phones today can get extremely bright, which is great when you are outside in sunlight, but higher brightness levels also drain your battery much faster. Now let's talk about the processor. Modern chips are incredibly powerful. They can handle gaming, video editing, multitasking, all on a small device in your hand. But all that power comes at a cost. The harder your phone works, the more energy it consumes. And it doesn't stop there. Even when you are not actively using your phone, a lot is still happening in the background. Apps are syncing data, notifications are being processed, location services are running. All of this is constantly using power. And now we also have AI features. Modern phones are starting to use AI for things like camera processing, voice features, smart suggestions, and many of these run in the background, which adds even more load on the battery. So when you add all of this together, you start to see the bigger picture. Your phone is constantly using power in ways most people don't even notice. And that's why even a much bigger battery doesn't always translate into much longer battery life. Now here is where things get interesting. A bigger battery life, 9000 milliampere, is actually a big upgrade, but only in the right situation. If you put a 9000 milliampere battery in a phone with average hardware, low refresh rate, less power hungry processor, then yes, you will see a noticeable improvement in battery life. But if you put that same battery into a phone with high-end specs, high refresh rate display, powerful chipset, and heavy background activity, then most of that extra battery gets used just to support that hardware instead of giving you dramatically longer usage. So in simple terms, battery life depends on two things: how big your battery is and how much power your phone is using. And both of these need to be balanced. If power usage is high, even a big battery won't feel like a huge upgrade. But if power usage is controlled, that same battery can make a massive difference. And that's why looking at battery size alone doesn't tell the full story. Sometimes phones with smaller batteries actually last longer in real world use. And that might sound surprising at first because we are used to thinking bigger battery always mean better battery life. But that's not always the case anymore because some phones are simply more efficient. They use smarter processor, better optimized software, and more efficient display technology. So it's not always about how big the battery is. It's about how much smarter the phone is with that battery. So don't fall for the numbers alone. Bigger battery doesn't always mean better better battery life. And now that you understand how this actually works, in the next video, I will show you which phones are expected to have the best battery life based on efficiency, optimization, and what actually matters in real world use. Subscribe to understand your phone.